Hello and welcome. My name is Abhishek Himrajani. In this video, I'll walk you through the process of large-scale migration of Hyper-V VMs to Azure with Azure Migrate server assessment and server migration capabilities. But before we start, here are two videos that I recommend you watch first. Watch the Get Started with Azure Migrate video to learn about the new Azure Migrate Hub experience. Azure Migrate is now a hub for all your migration needs and tools. In that Get Started video, I walk you through the process of creating a new Azure Migrate project and instantiating the server assessment and server migration tools. In the second video, I walk you through the process of discovering, assessing, and migrating VMware virtual machines using the new integrated experiences in Azure Migrate. In this video, we will talk about Hyper-V, but most of that functionality is already covered in the VMware video. Let's get started. So here I am on the Azure Migrate portal experience. Start by clicking on Servers. That should bring you into your existing Azure Migrate project. In my previous video, I had created the Contoso project and had discovered my VMware virtual machines into that project. I'll start off by clicking Discover on Server Assessment. This time, I'll select Hyper-V as the virtualization platform. I now get the option of downloading the Azure Migrate appliance in a VHD format. I'll download that appliance, bring up a virtual machine using the VHD, and I'll be able to get started with Azure Migrate Server Assessment for Hyper-V. Just as you do with VMware, once the Azure Migrate appliance is up and running, you get presented with the default configuration experience. Ensure that prerequisites are in place. A detailed prerequisite guide with a prerequisite checklist and scripts to help you get started is available in the documentation. I strongly recommend you review that before you get started. It looks like my appliance has everything that's needed to get started. I simply click on Continue. At this step, I'm going to log into my Azure subscription. Once I'm logged in, I'm able to select my demo subscription. I'll select the same Contoso project that I've been using, and I'll give this appliance a name. For ease of management, I'm going to call this appliance Hyper-V 1. Click on Register to register the appliance with the Azure Migrate Server Assessment Service. Once the registration is successful, click on Continue to provide the Hyper-V source environment details. Before you can initiate discovery on your Hyper-V hosts or clusters, you'll need to provide the username and password to those source environments. Once the credentials have been saved, click on Add to provide a list of your Hyper-V hosts or Hyper-V clusters. As a final step, hit Validate. This will ensure that your hosts are reachable and accessible via the credentials that you've provided. Once the validation is complete, you get an output with an information of the number of virtual machines on every single host. I have roughly 3,000 virtual machines across 75 hosts in this validation output. I recommend discovering between 5 and 6,000 virtual machines per Hyper-V appliance. You can bring discovery information from multiple appliances into the same Azure Migrate project and perform large-scale assessments for Hyper-V, just as we did for VMware. As a final step, click on Save and Start Discovery. Once the discovery is complete, the discovered server count on my Azure Migrate server assessment will get updated. I can also click on Overview to view the inventory. I can choose to perform assessment for all my virtual machines at the same time, or I can choose to perform assessments at an application level. For this video, I'm going to go ahead and create an assessment for my Contoso HR app, which is made up of 4 virtual machines. In the VMware Discovery Assessment and Migration video, we saw the process of creating an assessment on top of all virtual machines discovered from a data center. Let's go ahead and get started with an application level assessment this time. Click on Assess. Let's start by giving this assessment a name. I'm going to call it Contoso HR. Let's also go ahead and create a group for our virtual machines. I'm going to call that group Contoso HR as well. I'll select all the virtual machines that are participating in my application. The assessment will get computed using the default assessment properties. To modify the assessment properties, click on View All. The Azure Migrate documentation provides comprehensive listing of these settings. You can also modify settings post the creation of an assessment. For now, I'm going to stick with the defaults. To finish the process, click on Create Assessment. Once the assessment has been computed, You can review the Azure readiness information and the cost details for every machine in your application. You can also use the View Dependencies feature to visualize dependencies before you start your migration process. Now that I've verified all of the information related to discovery and assessment of my Hyper-V based application, I'm ready to start performing migration. Click on Azure Migrate Servers. That should bring you back in the servers experience of Azure Migrate. To get started with migrating your Hyper-V virtual machines, click on Discover, select the target region that you plan to perform migrations to, and click on Create Resources. For both VMware and Hyper-V, you do not need any agents on your virtual machines to perform migrations to Azure. The only difference is, in the case of Hyper-V, you need to complete 2 steps on your Hyper-V host before you can start replicating servers. Follow the instructions on the Discover Machines blade. Once you've completed the instructions, you're ready to start replicating your applications to Azure. Simply click on Replicate, select Hyper-V as the virtualization platform, click Next to select the virtual machines that you want to replicate. With end-to-end integration, the assessment information from your existing Azure Migrate assessment can automatically be applied to the VMs as they are migrated to Azure. Simply click on Yes to apply migration settings from an existing Azure Migrate assessment. You can then select your group. I had created a group Contoso HR for my Hyper-V virtual machines, and then select an assessment that you want to use for the migration. This will automatically pull up the virtual machines that are part of that application. Click Next to specify the target settings for your application. You can specify the subscription, the resource group, storage account, and network information for your virtual machines as you migrate them to Azure. You can also benefit from the Azure Hybrid Benefit offer if you have Windows Server licenses covered by software assurance. Click Next to confirm the compute and disk recommendation. You'll notice that the assessment information has already been applied to the compute information for the virtual machines. As a final step, review the information and click Replicate to start the replication process. The latest information gets updated in the Server Migration tile on Azure Migrate. I can see that my servers have replicated successfully. I can take quick actions such as migrating those servers to Azure. I can also click on Overview to see things in better detail. I can see that I have 13 servers replicating to Azure. I can perform a test migration on my application. This will ensure that an isolated copy of my Contoso HR app gets created in Azure so that I can validate the performance of the right-sized app before deciding to migrate it to Azure. When performing migration, I get the option of performing a planned activity, which includes a zero data loss migration to Azure. It's as simple as that. So that's what I had for you in this video. We saw how easy it is to get started with Azure Migrate's server assessment and server migration capability. We were able to create large-scale assessments for our entire Hyper-V data center. We also created an assessment for the Contoso HR app. The assessment gave us comprehensive information related to the readiness and cost details before we decide to perform the migration to Azure. Once we were happy with the assessment, we were able to start replicating those Hyper-V virtual machines using the integrated server migration experience. All of our assessment details were automatically applied to the VMs before they start replicating to Azure. Throughout the process, the information keeps getting updated on the server migration tile in Azure Migrate. And finally, test migration gives you the option to validate the performance of your right-sized app before you decide to migrate it to Azure. I hope you found the content useful. Thank you and keep watching.